When you lose a part of yourself, it can be devastating, especially when you're so used to having it and using it all the time. Cyborg, before he had even left high school, had lost a part of himself, and that part was huge. It was half of his humanity, being given up from an unfortunate accident. He went from being a high school quarterback destined to be a Division 1 athlete to a man who is a science experiment of his former self, missing a majority of his humanity, something he struggles to hold on to even to this day. And I think Teen Titans, the original from 2004, does a great job of not only expanding upon Cyborg's already rich history, but in turn creating the definitive version of the character. And I want to cover 3 episodes in this video, starting with the sum of his parts, the 5th episode in the first season of this show. This episode is really your quintessential man versus machine conflict. Cyborg, at his core, is still a human dude who loves to live life larger than anyone else. He is a fun-loving dude. He loves to eat barbecue, he loves to hang out with his friends at the park. But while Cyborg was enjoying his day at the park, playing football with the Titans, his power cells die. You see, Cyborg runs on a certain set of power cells that need a recharge every couple years, and that's just due to being part machine. And unfortunately for him, they ended up dying while he was playing football with the Teen Titans, or at least getting close to dying.
And my power cell's dying.
Dying?
It's only a battery. I'm fine. Happens every couple of years. Just a natural part of being unnatural.
So what do we do?
You keep playing. I go home and change batteries.
This leaves Cyborg frustrated. A lot of points of contention for him is the fact that he is part machine. He's not fully human anymore, and he feels like it holds him back from doing a lot of the things that he loves, even if that means playing at the park with his friends. It really frustrates him. But then again, he gets to see a little boy who believes himself to be just like Cyborg because he as well has a prosthetic hand. And I think it's looking at moments like this for Cyborg that reminds him why he does what he does when he gets to see people like this. He sort of feels an understanding to the kid. But unfortunately, duty calls, and so even with his power cells dying, he has to run into action, and that doesn't turn out very well for him. Unfortunately, Cyborg ends up not only being defeated pretty badly, but also ends up completely out of juice and left as a scrap heap inside of a dumpster. When Cyborg does wake up, he finds himself surrounded by a man who will proclaim to fix him, not only give him a new battery and recharge it, but fix other ailments with his systems that he seems to have going on. And as well, he is surrounded by hundreds of other robots that the creator says are like him, and they were once broken and now fixed. But Cyborg doesn't think any more of him needs fixing. He believes that he is perfectly fine with this new battery and this new rechargeable cell, and his systems even seem to indicate the exact same. But the difference is, Fix-It doesn't believe in having any humanity left. He believes that humanity and flesh is a weakness, and that robotics is what makes you strong. And he plans on turning Cyborg into a full-on robot, and he tricks Vic into staying. And unfortunately, it takes Cyborg a little bit too long before realizing that the Fix-It wants to remove his humanity completely. And of course, Victor does not agree with this at all, but he's forced to do it against his will.
Repairs are not yet complete. Your biological components are imperfect and must be replaced.
One of Cyborg's biggest fears when he became Cyborg from just being Victor Stone was that he would end up completely machine. He was afraid that one day he would be completely reliant on being a machine and that he would have no more autonomy for himself and that he wouldn't be human anymore. Cyborg firmly believes that the human part of himself is the best part of himself, and if that were to be stripped away from him, it would cause disaster not only for him mentally, but physically as well. Hell, he even has a nightmare while sitting on the table before Fix-It starts the surgery. But Cyborg isn't someone who would take this lying down, obviously, and he tries to attack Fix-It and tries to escape while also defeating the man who was trying to turn him into a full robot. But in the process, Cyborg discovers that Fix-It himself is a biological being. Fix-It is made of living, breathing matter, and even Fix-It acknowledges himself that his own infection, i.e. his humanity, is spreading, and he wants to cut it out. He views humanity as a weakness, and so he tries to cut it out of Cyborg until Fix-It connects mentally with Cyborg. And when Fix-It connects to Cyborg, he sees something he did not expect at all. Fix-It sees humanity and he sees life through Cyborg's eyes. He gets to see Cyborg enjoying hanging out with the Teen Titans. He gets to see Cyborg enjoying to play sports, making connections, and just loving life. As Fix-It himself says, life through Cyborg's eyes is so vibrant and wonderful that it even gets him to stop his assault against the Teen Titans who are looking for Cyborg. And this is even something Fix-It comes to the realization for himself, and he almost seems envious of the way Cyborg sees the world.
I had forgotten how beautiful the world through your eyes.
Through human eyes. The same kind you have.
Perhaps I am the one in need of repairs.
And maybe I'm the guy who can help repair you.
But Cyborg isn't heartless. He understands that this man just simply hasn't been able to see the world in the same way Cyborg does. And so instead of just beating him up and sending him to prison, Cyborg brings him out to live amongst the people, to see the world once again. And at the end of the episode, we get a really sweet moment where Cyborg gets to meet the kids who are just like him once again. And this time he's ecstatic to tell them, it's not our robotic components that make us similar, but it's our humanity. Because humanity is what unites all of us. But not everything is peaches and rainbows when it comes to Cyborg and his cybernetic tech and humanity. Well, he tries his best to keep both events and both parts of himself balanced. He truly struggles at some point, like in season 2, episode 17, Only Human. Cyborg is increasingly frustrated with the fact that his robotic body has its own limits. Cyborg sees a percentage marker constantly that tells him his suit has reached max capacity, that he's at 99%, 100%, and he can't ever seem to push past his own built-in physical limits, and this frustrates him to no end. It ends up leading him to treating his teammates like a jerk because he is angry. But his anger is founded in a good place. Cyborg is frustrated with the limitations that he faces every single day.
When I was an athlete, when I was human, I loved pushing my limits. Getting stronger, faster, better, just by trying harder than I ever had before. My coaches would always tell me to give 110%, and I always did.
You still can.
My muscles are mechanical now. Limits are built in.
So to drown out his sadness and sort of get a reprieve, Cyborg decides to play video games, something he will never have a limit in, and even as the other Titans try to cheer Cyborg up, it only seems to make him more upset as he just wants to be left alone and enjoy his video games. Even then, he can't seem to enjoy them the way he wants to. And even when Cyborg does win in his video games and is having a good time, he really can't seem to win today because he decides to talk some smack, and unfortunately he catches the ire of Atlas, another person who plays this game and who wants to get at Cyborg in real life simply for being beaten in a video game. And Atlas is no joke. He ends up soloing most of the Teen Titans in one go and captures all of them as sort of trophies, while he goads Cyborg for losing to him in real life, because this dude can't handle losing in a video game apparently. So Cyborg, of course, gears up ready to go face Atlas and to destroy him, but at the same time, a thought lingers in his mind that maybe he just doesn't have enough, and his workout from earlier cements that in his head. He gets the notion and idea that he isn't strong enough to beat Atlas in his mind before he even shows up to challenge dude. mainly because he sees that limiter on his arm as his end-all be-all. He sees that 100% as being it, even if it isn't. And because of this, Cyborg gets his ass handed to him within the fight extremely handily. He sees that 100% again, and he just gives up. He doesn't even try to push past the limits, he just simply bows down to his limits. And he had to abandon his only friends, which leaves him sulking throughout Jump City, trying to figure out a way to break through.
So that's it, man? You're just gonna give up? What else can I do? I gave everything I had. 100%. Give more. Your friends are in trouble. You have to go back. You have to win. I can't win. Atlas is stronger. Atlas is faster. He's just a better robot. But you aren't all robot. Half of you is human, and that's the half that can beat him.
It was never actually Cyborg's mechanical side that was limiting him in this battle. It was his mental. His human side was limiting him. Because in his mind, Cyborg believed himself to be inferior and believed that 100% on his arm was all he could give. And when you cement that in your mind, it becomes reality. When you believe you can only push to a certain level, you will stop yourself. And that's what Cyborg was doing. It takes Cyborg realizing that he's so much more than that number on the screen to go back there and not only get his teammates freed, but this time to outright overpower Atlas. He sees that 100% and he just simply decides to give more. He wants to give more. And I think that's incredibly important to his character. I think that's why the Titans didn't step in during this scene where Cyborg is struggling against Atlas. It was a way for the Titans to show him that yes, you are more than just that number on the screen. You can be more and you can give more. And I think that's really important to his character in this second season and throughout the rest of this show, because he'll always be striving to give more as a person, especially after defeating Atlas.
Guess we better get you a new one of those.
Don't need it anymore. My body may have its limitations, but if I put my mind to it, there's no limit to what I can do.
But the idea of having no limits is also another thing that leads to detriment for Cyborg. Cyborg now pushes himself to live life to the fullest and to enjoy living. He spends most of his days enjoying around the Teen Titans Tower, hanging out with his friends, and doing everything he can possibly get done. But unfortunately, he feels that he never has enough time to do what he wants to. And while now he might not be limited by his mind, he feels that he is limited by his hardware. And so when he immediately sees an advertisement for something that can boost his hardware, Cyborg doesn't hesitate to jump at the chance of getting this item that would boost his hardware and allow him to do more of the things he loved and allow him to be a better crime fighter, the Max 7, a new processor for Cyborg. And of course, the second he gets it, being the overly excited consumer he is, he skips reading all of the manuals and just decides to put the chip inside of his head. And that's gotta be one of the most Cyborg things I think he does in this show, and I love it. But that's just kind of a side note. But this new Max 7 chip allows Cyborg to get done a lot more things. He's putting up his best times in the training area. He's getting to spend way more time with his friends. He's getting to eat more of the food he loves. I mean, Cyborg is just living and enjoying life to the fullest with this extra processing power now, and I think that's wonderful for him, but unfortunately, not everything can be peaches and rainbows. But as another added side note, he beats Raven in chess, which is insane because nobody beats her in chess. But back on track, not everything is peaches and rainbows for Cyborg with this new chip. You see, Billy Numerous is back in town and he is giving the Titans trouble. He has seemed to have a better control over his powers, and there are hundreds of him running around the city all night and robbing banks and wreaking general havoc, and there's way more of him than the Titans could hope to deal with, especially in a single night. You know, they're not Batman. And of course, this leaves most of the Titans absolutely exhausted. Starfire finds herself a nice bed on a lamp, and Cyborg doesn't really want to call it a night. He seems frustrated by the fact that even with this new processor, he can't seem to take on all of the Billy Numerouses around town. And Cyborg also doesn't want to turn in for the night and get any sleep. He seems hell-bent on finding Billy Numerous and getting him at any cost.
Ugh. Come on, Cyborg. You don't have time to be tired. Maybe the Max 7 just needs a little more juice. Already drawing all the power I can spare. Unless...
I think it's Cyborg's drive learned from Season 2 to want to be the best version of himself that leads him to sacrificing a lot of his core systems to power the Max 7 in order for him to chase Billy around town. And I think that's really a problem. He believes in giving over 100%. He wants to give 110, 120, but in the process, he's burning himself out. He's taking away all of his fun, all of his emotion, his needs to sleep, his need to eat. He's giving up everything he has in order to give that full 100%. And that ends up being detrimental to Cyborg, and he forgets the one thing he wanted to stay away from in the first place.
Friend, did you not have any of the sleep?
Sleep is no longer required. Billy Numerous.
Cyborg ends up going full robot. He's given up every single part of him that was making him human. And that's something that I find very interesting, is that we go from him being very afraid of becoming full robot to wanting to give 100% and finding his hardware as a limitation, to him giving well over 100%, but in the process, sacrificing what made him human. And in the end, that truly just burns Cyborg out, and he's unable to even do anything anymore, as he's essentially stripped everything he possibly had out of himself, and that causes a short circuit in his system because he quite literally gave up everything to go full robot. And I think it's very interesting that they went this direction, whether intentional or not, as these episodes are all multiple seasons apart from each other. But regardless, the Teen Titans are able to save Cyborg, but in the process, they had to remove his Max 7 chip, as it was literally about to kill him because he had overdrawn it so badly. And Cyborg is extremely frustrated by this. He doesn't know of a way for him to be able to give 110% without it. But Beast Boy, being the ever wisdom man he is, provides a solution.
Maybe you don't need to keep up with him. I could turn into the biggest, strongest, fastest animals on Earth. But you know what, dude? Sometimes it's best to be a slow, tiny turtle.
And I think that really clicked for Cyborg, in that maybe there is a way for him to give over 100% without absolutely burning himself out and destroying himself by making himself a full robot. And so Cyborg decides to use his brains instead of brawn and essentially trick Billy Numerous into overextending himself with too many clones of, well, himself. And Cyborg is successful in this endeavor. He got Billy Numerous to put too much power out there and burn himself out, much like Cyborg did to himself earlier in this episode. And with that, they were able to capture Billy Numerous, and Cyborg reveals his little trick to Billy. But I think there's a lot that can be learned from this little arc of Cyborg's over a few seasons. Essentially, he goes from being afraid of giving too much and becoming a robot to not being able to give enough because of the mental barriers he put himself on, believing his hardware was limited as he wasn't full human or full robot. And then that culminated in Cyborg wanting to give too much and overextending himself into becoming full robot himself, the one thing he feared the most. And so I think with Cyborg, it just comes down to trying to find a balance. And I think that's something we can all try to find a better way of doing in our personal lives, especially I know that I should, considering I just did a double feature this week and I'm pretty exhausted during this recording session. I don't know if you all can tell, but the support has been overwhelming and I am so grateful to all of you. Thank you all so much for watching these videos. If you enjoyed, I would really appreciate a like, a sub, and if you didn't like the video, a dislike would let me know that. as well. Again, thank you all for watching. If you want to support me on Patreon, it's $1 a month, and you get to see these videos early on unedited. And shout out to the 2 Patreons in the Showing Love tier who get shouted out at the end of every video, that being MCBomb27 and Donovan Gomez. Again, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.